Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 32 running back rankings and tiers for the 2023 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. It is also important to note that in today's video, we are going to be zooming through running backs 1 through 24 because I already have two other videos, running backs 1 through 12 in one video and running backs 13 through 24, going very in-depth into those running backs. So if you want to hear more about them, make sure you check out those videos. They'll be linked in the video description. So tier number 1 is composed of 3 running backs. We have Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, and Bijan Robinson. We obviously all know just how great Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler are. There are going to be some people that want to put Bijan in tier number 2 with 3 other running backs, but ultimately, I think even in his rookie year, Bijan Robinson is going to be force-fed the ball for the Falcons. They drafted him incredibly highly in the 2023 NFL draft. They force-fed Tyler Algier, and Bijan Robinson is levels above Tyler Algier. He's going to be a workhorse back on a team that wants to run the rock. It didn't even matter last year that they could be getting the ever-living shit beat out of them in a game, and the running back, Tyler Algier, would still be getting a zillion carries late in games. So I'm very confident in the upside of Bijan Robinson, and I would be shocked, barring injury, if these were not 3 top 5 running backs in 2023 fantasy football. Moving to tier number 2, we got Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, and 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. Obviously, last year, Jonathan Taylor was a disaster in fantasy football. You drafted him with the number 1 overall pick. He couldn't stay healthy, and the Indianapolis Colts absolutely imploded, and some people are burned by that Jonathan Taylor pick and may not want to take him again, but I will try to tell you to kind of forget what happened in 2022. That was a team led by Matt Ryan that had a terrible coaching situation. They had Sam Ehlinger at points, and the offensive line did not live up to expectations. I think the Indianapolis offensive line will look a lot better this season. I think given it's Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew, it's a step up at quarterback compared to the corpse of Matt Ryan or the babyface, Sam Ehlinger. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to bounce back in a big way. We all know how good Saquon Barkley is, and I think the Cleveland Browns are going to be a lot better of a team, leading to Nick Chubb having even more success. Moving now to tier number 3, running backs 7 through 10. At number 7, we got Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, as well as Ramondre Stevenson. Breece Hall's ranking definitely depends as we get later and later into the summer and closer to draft season, how healthy he looks. If it seems like week number 1, this guy's going to be good to go, then I'm going to probably potentially move him up even higher. But I think I have him at a very fair range. Even if they use the just the tip approach early on the season, I think Breece Hall could be and will be the workhorse back in New York. The only worry is there are some rumors right now that Dalvin Cook may end up going to the New York Jumbo Jets. Obviously, Josh Jacobs had a great last season. Derrick Henry, when healthy, is a monster, and Ramondre Stevenson really stepped up in 2022, and there isn't much competition behind him this year. Moving to tier number 4, we got Tony Pollard and Jahmyr Gibbs. Tony Pollard, my worry with him is just the fact that I think this team is going to end up bringing in another running back. They have a lot of smaller backs on their team. I think that we could see Uncle Lenny come there, or we could end up seeing Ezekiel Elliott return. They have not ruled that out, though. Even if Zeke is back, I think Tony Pollard still has really big, immense upside with how fast he is, with how skilled of a player he is, as well as his pass catching upside. Jahmyr Gibbs of the Lions, obviously a rookie. I love this Lions team, and we have seen a lot of positive reports out of mini camp, whatever the fuck's going on right now, OTAs. Very positive towards Jahmyr Gibbs. Moving now to tier number 5, we have Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and Dameon Pierce. Obviously, Najee burnt a ton of people last year. He entered the season hurt. The offensive line was about as useful as a broken condom, and that offense kind of struggled. I think they'll look a little bit better under Kenny Pickett in his second year. Travis Etienne, I'm definitely off of in terms of fantasy football compared to where he's going, because I really like Tank Bigsby, and I don't think this team is necessarily sold on Travis Etienne. But there's also the other argument that Travis Etienne's the lead back there, and the Jaguars offense is a amazing team. They look like they're going to be scoring a shit ton of points, and then Travis Etienne smashes, and I look stupid, so I can't move him down that far. And then Dameon Pierce, obviously, I love him for the Houston Texans, a much better offense they're putting out this year. Moving to tier number 6, we got Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones. Joe Mixon will be able to move up a couple of slots if we get towards August and there is zero chance of suspension. It doesn't seem like he's going to be suspended, but that's still up in the air right now. Aaron Jones, obviously, going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love is a huge step down, but Aaron Jones is such a good running back. I have to believe the Green Bay Packers still want to give him a bunch of touches. Now moving to tier number 7, running backs 18 through 21. At number 18, we have Kenneth Walker. I'm very low on him compared to consensus. I think the Seattle team really wants to use 2 running backs. I think they brought in Zach Charbonnet for a reason. You don't just draft a running back in the 2nd round for the fucking fun of it. Pete Carroll has already said there's going to be a battle for the RB1 role, and there's a chance that Kenneth Walker loses that. Miles Sanders goes from the Eagles to the Panthers. Think he should be a 3-down back there. I obviously don't necessarily love the skill set of Miles Sanders, but I think he gets a lot of usage. DeAndre Swift with the Eagles, obviously switching from the Lions to the Eagles, should be the RB1 on the team. Obviously didn't perform all that hot last year, but he is a running back with legitimate pass catching upside, and on this Eagles team, the ceiling is very high because of how many points they were score. And then Isaiah Pacheco, obviously they bring back Jerick McKinnon, which isn't great news for Pacheco, but I think Pacheco might not catch a bunch of passes, but he's going to be seeing a bunch of carries again, and he's on a very good team. Moving now to tier number 8, running backs 22 through 26. The real breakdown will begin at 25 with Cam Akers. So 22, we got J.K. Dobbins of the Ravens. I'm definitely someone who likes Gus Edwards more than most, but I'd be foolish to say J.K. Dobbins doesn't have more skill than Gus Edwards and thus having more upside due to his pass catching ability. I like this Ravens team a lot. They like to run the ball, and if Dobbins is able to stay healthy, he does have that legitimate amazing ceiling. Dalvin Cook for the Vikings, pretty up in the air what team he's going to be on. He might even be a Minnesota Viking come the start of the season. His ranking heavily changes depending what team he lands on. There's talks of the Bills. He probably stays around this range. If he goes to the Jets, then he's going to fall down because I still think Breece Hall is the guy. Running back number 24, we got James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals. I am not the biggest fan of the Arizona Cardinals this season, but I will acknowledge that James Conner is by far and away the workhorse running back on this team, and even if they are losing games and they're terrible, and maybe even Kyler doesn't play for a majority of the season, I still think James Conner, just based on skill alone, is a fantasy viable running back. At number 25, we got Cam Akers of the LA Rams. Underdog ADP running back 24 at pick 76.6. He was the RB 33.5 PPR last season, and the running back 36 in points per game, tied with A.J. Dillon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Brian Robinson. He played in 15 games last year, but only started 9 games. If you hop in the time machine, Marty McFly style, and remember what happened last season, things weren't looking the best for Cam Akers. It seemed like he wanted to trade, he wanted out. Sean McVay basically sat him down, said, "Pal, you'll ride the pine, you're not suiting up, this, that, and the other thing." But towards the end of the season, this man started rumbling like he was in the jungle, and he was playing big in these games down the stretch. Now, obviously, this was a Matt Stafford-less LA Rams team down the stretch, but Cam Akers looked pretty good. 188 carries, 12.5 per game, number 26, 786 rushing yards, 52.4 per game, 29th, 18 targets, 13 receptions, 117 receiving yards, and 7 total touchdowns, 19th. Interesting efficiency stat for him, 23.4% dominator rating, 15th at running back. I have never really been the biggest fan of Cam Akers, but I feel like the competition behind him, Kyron Williams, and these other guys just really isn't the best, if I'm being honest with you. And I think that Cam Akers, even if Stafford isn't 100%, the Rams aren't going to just be the worst team in the NFL because of how good of a coach Sean McVay is. And if Cam Akers looked like he looked down the stretch of the season, I think we're wildly discrediting him if we rank him any higher than running back 25 or lower, depending on how you want to take on it. So I think 25 is fair. I think anywhere from 25... 26, maybe even tier number 9 for some people is pretty fair for him. Closing out tier number 8, we have Alexander Mattison of the Minnesota Vikings. Current underdog ADP running back 23 at pick 76.5. Last year was the RB 49.5 PPR and the RB 65.5 PPR points per game, playing in 17 games last season with 0 starts. He had 74 carries, 4.4 per game, 56, 283 rushing yards, 16.6 per game, 60th. 18 targets, 1.1 per game, 61st, 15 receptions, 0.9 per game, 61st, 91 receiving yards, 6 total touchdowns, 22nd. He didn't get a single start last year, but if Dalvin Cook is gone, then Alexander Madison's ceiling is incredibly high with how good this Vikings offense looks and how good Alexander Madison looked when Dalvin Cook was gone in 2021. Week 3 up against Seattle, for example, 26 carries, 6 receptions on 8 targets, 171 total yards, RB7 on the week. Week 5 versus Detroit, again, this is 2021 when Cook was hurt. 25 carries, 7 receptions on 7 targets for 153 total yards, 1 touchdown, RB6 on the week. Now, I know there's a lot of people clamoring for the other backup running backs in Minnesota, but I think there's legitimate truth to just watching what's happened in the past. When Cook has went down, Alexander Madison has stepped up in an incredibly large fashion, like his name was Lizzo, and I fully expect Alexander Madison to be the guy if Cook gets traded. Now, there's still the fact that Dalvin Cook might just be a fucking Viking in 2023. He might be. Seems like a lot of people are ruling that out, but if he is, Madison obviously falls down and he just becomes one of those premier handcuffs because, again, if the starting running back goes down, Alexander Madison, it's like plug and play. He is that top 12 running back potentially in fantasy football any given week, especially in a good matchup. Moving now to tier number 9, we begin here with David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions, running back 27, currently coming off the board on Underdog Fantasy as the running back 28 at pick 87.3. Now, we have mentioned Underdog Fantasy a couple times in today's video, and they are the sponsor of today's video. If you're brand new to Underdog Fantasy, they are the best place to play best ball fantasy football this summer. Now, if you're new to best ball is my favorite part about fantasy football. It's the draft. There's no waivers, no in-season management, and no trades. So you draft your 18-round team, and that's it. You draft the team, and Underdog automatically puts your highest scores into your lineup every single week. So you don't even have to worry about it during the season. You can come back at the end of the season and potentially have a boatload of cash. Underdog has the biggest best ball contest ever. $25 to enter, 150 max entries, $3 million to first place, $15 million in total prizes. If you say, oh, that's a little too much for me because I am new to the website, I want to get a hang of things. They also recently released the Puppy 2, $5 to enter, $1 million in total prizes. So make sure you guys do check that out. Link in the video description if you're a brand new user, or use promo code Notorious for a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. So you deposit 100, they'll give you an additional 100. If you only want to do 50, additional 50, 25, and additional 25. Again, click on the link in the video description or use promo code Notorious. Back on into things, David Montgomery, the RB's 23.5 PPR last season and 27.5 PPR points per game, tied with Rashad Penny. 16 games played last year, 201 carries for the Chicago Bears, 12.6 per game, number 22, 801 rushing yards, 50.1 per game, number 27, 40 targets, 2.5 per game, number 27, 34 receptions, 2.1 per game, 24, 316 receiving yards, 19.8 per game, 15th, and 6 total touchdowns, 22nd, 34.5% juke rate, 9th, 81 evaded tackles, 5.1 per game, 8th, and an 85% catch rate, 3rd. Now, I have talked very highly about Jahmyr Gibbs, but what I want you to understand is that David Montgomery isn't really just a handcuff. David Montgomery, when they're knocking on the door on the goal line, is going to get the touches because Jahmyr Gibbs isn't built like that. He's not built like the fucking thumper you want to use. And I'm not talking about the grenade launcher from Modern Warfare 2. I'm talking about the wrecking ball-esque. You get in the red zone and they just hand the rock to David Montgomery. He barrels through the offensive line, barrels through a defender, shoves a motherfucker into middle earth and runs into the end zone, right? That's not how Jahmyr Gibbs is built. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be out there potentially even running out as a wide receiver. He's the pass catching back. David Montgomery is great at pass catching. He is, but he won't be given as much of an opportunity here because of how good Gibbs is. But David Montgomery also has more upside. They're going to give him carries. It's not like they paid David Montgomery all that money not to use him at all. Now, obviously, in a vacuum, I prefer Jahmyr Gibbs. I have him ranked running back 12. David Montgomery's running back 27. But I don't think that means I think that David Montgomery is useless in any way. And again, knock on wood, I don't root for injuries. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I got him on a lot of my fantasy teams on Underdog already. But I will be honest, if something happens to Jahmyr Gibbs, with how good this Lions offense's outlook is, the NFL put them on the first fucking game of the season. So even the NFL themselves, Roger Goodell's dumbass, thinks that this is going to be a great team. So they're going to be putting up a bunch of points. We saw Jamal Williams score a zillion touchdowns last season. Do I think David Montgomery's going to do that? Fuck no, baby. But do I think David Montgomery has 10+ touchdown upside? Yes, I am in love with this offense, and I think David Montgomery is a viable piece in it. Running back number 28, we got Rashad with 2 A's White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Underdog ADP running back 26 at pick 84.7. Now, unlike David Montgomery, Rashad White is the back for the Buccaneers. If you look at their backups, it's going to be like Conor McGregor when he says, who the fuck is that guy? Because you don't really know who any of these other running backs are. They don't look good on paper. They're not great. But, and this is a big but, like Kim Kardashian, there's a chance they bring someone else in. Now, if we get to late August, early September, and it's just Rashad White and the guys they have now in the backfield, I'm going to have to bump Rashad White up, but trying to kind of forecast a little bit into the future as we're making this video on June 8th, you have to assume that they probably could bring someone in. Now, Rashad White actually really good at pass catching. 58 targets, 3.4 per game, 12th. 50 receptions, 2.9 per game, 11th. 290 receiving yards, 3 total touchdowns. 86.2% catch rate, 2nd. 455 yards created, 26.8 per game, 31st. 3.6 true yards per carry, 65th. So I don't think he's that great used as like a workhorse running back. But if the Bucs don't bring anyone in, then he will have to be used in that scenario, and thus he will have to be fluffed up the rankings, shot up the rankings. Right now, though, in June, I think it's pretty safe to say there's a good chance they bring someone else in. And the Bucs are an offense that you don't even want to heavily invest in anyways. So even if they don't bring anyone in, again, he's probably only going to move up to the ass crack of tier number 8. He's not moving any higher than that. Running back 29, we got my guy A.J. Dillon of the Green Bay Packers. Current underdog ADP running back 33 at pick 103.9. He was the RB 25.5 PPR last season and the running back 36.5 PPR points per game, tied with Cam Akers and Brian Robinson. 17 games played last year with 3 starts, 186 carries, 10.9 per game, 27th. 770 rushing yards, 45.3 per game, 31st. 43 targets, 28 receptions, 206 receiving yards, and 7 total touchdowns, 19th. 60 evaded tackles, ranking 17th, and 28% juke rate. A.J. Dillon is a running back that you draft a little bit later in drafts. Now, I was someone who was off of A.J. Dillon last year because I thought his ADP was too damn high. I thought the 6th, the 7th round, no way, Jose, will I be drafting A.J. Dillon at that price. But at the current price, where he is listed as kind of in the handcuff running back range, I like him a lot, because if someone was to go down on your team, you could feel decent throwing A.J. Dillon in there. A.J. Dillon, even with Aaron Jones starting, could score 13 to 15, maybe even 18 fantasy points on a good game. If A.J. Dillon gets hurt, knock on wood, not if A.J. Dillon, if Aaron Jones gets hurt, knock on wood, A.J. Dillon has that crazy upside. Because this is a team, like I talked about with Aaron Jones early on, that wants to run the rock. I don't think they're just going to give the key to the city to Jordan Love and have him slinging the rock a million times a game. Now, maybe later in the game, if they're just getting clobbered, then sure. But this Packers defense is good enough to where maybe they just ease Jordan Love in. Hey, just run the rock with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. And if something happened to Jones, again, knock on wood, we do not root for injuries. A.J. Dillon's a premier handcuff that has use even if Aaron Jones is able to stay healthy all year. Running back number 30, we got Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos. Current underdog ADP running back 29 at pick 91.5. Now, we've seen a lot of positive things from Sean Payton on Javonte Williams. Seems like Javonte Williams might be good for week number 1. I've also heard reports that it seems like this is going to be more of a committee with Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams. Now, if this isn't a committee and Javonte Williams is good to go early on in the season, I'm going to look like a buffoon if I rank him any lower than I have him, because in terms of skill set, I think Javonte Williams really is that guy. He has the it factor. That's why people drafted him all those years ago, not like 30 years ago, whatever. When he came into the NFL, people were drafting him highly in dynasty rookie drafts because they liked the upside out of him and the landing spot was good. Last year, obviously, he only played 4 games, which could be looked at as a positive technically, because he only played a couple games. He got hurt so early on that he could reasonably be back by week number 1 easily, fully healthy. He played in 4 games last year, 47 carries, 11.8 per game, 69th. Very nice, I like. My name is Borat. 204 rushing yards, 22 targets, 16 receptions, 76 receiving yards, no touchdowns. Since he only played in 4 games, he doesn't even qualify for a majority of the efficiency stats, so we won't just rattle those off. I think this Broncos team should bounce back. If Russell Wilson is the Russell Wilson from last year, then this team is finished. Russell Wilson gets the bag, Brock Osweiler style, and then hits the team with a Mortal Kombat finisher, right? Because they're done with. They're done for. You pay him all that money, you trade all his picks for him, and he sucks. Even Sean Payton can't fix him. It's a disaster. There's also a chance where Sean Payton builds him back up like he's at Build-A-Bear, and Javonte Williams is able to flourish in the system with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. So as we get closer to the season, I think it's going to be easier to rank Javonte Williams. I was really in on him early, but the more I started to think about things, like Samaje Perine's good enough to be a pest and pest away, maybe into a 60-40 backfield, which is still good, but not like top 18 favorable for Javonte Williams. Moving now to tier number 10, as Javonte was the final running back in tier number 9. We move to 2 rookie running backs. My guy, Devin, 2 chains. Devin off the chain. Devin A. chain of the Dolphins. Underdog ADP running back 36 at pick 112.6. Now, there's been a lot of rumors. A little birdie told me that maybe Dalvin Cook is going to be a Miami Dolphin. If that is the case, I still think A. chain's valuable. But Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, kick them the fuck out of there. Hit them away. You don't want anything to do with them. He played 3 years at Texas A&M, 10 games played in 2022 at 21 years old, 196 carries for 1,102 rushing yards, 36 receptions for 196 receiving yards, and 11 total touchdowns. This guy is incredibly fast, which is why I think Mike McDaniel wanted to draft him. It was reported by one of the Dolphins ESPN writers that Mike McDaniel lobbied heavily to select Devin A. chain. So 99th percentile 40-yard dash with a 4.32 and an 80th percentile speed score on Player Profiler with a 108. There's even been reports that his speed is going to be utilized in a myriad of ways. SAT word with myriad, right? That's very good. They're going to pass him the ball. He's a great pass catcher as well. This is a Dolphins team that is really fast, going to score a lot of points. I'm very excited for Devin A. chain's upside. But again, I want to make it very clear that if Dalvin Cook shows up, I still think A. chain will be fine. But I won't be as excited because if I'm being honest with you, I think A. chain could really take over early on in the season. Maybe not the first couple weeks, but maybe 4 or 5 weeks in the season, maybe closer to the halfway point, as the lead back on the team. But I don't think he necessarily needs the lead back to have that crazy upside. Number 32, closing out tier 10, we got Zach Charbonnet, Seattle Seahawks, ADP 32 at running back on Underdog, running back 102, or pick 102.9, running back 32. Most recent report, like I talked about with Kenneth Walker, is that Charbonnet and Walker are going to battle to the death like Obi-Wan and fucking Anakin. Pick 53 in the first round, or the second round of the 2023 NFL draft. They drafted him in the second round, and they drafted Walker in the second round the year prior. So they're not really stuck with just using Kenneth Walker because they invested all that draft capital, right? The Falcons, they fucking put the stamp on Bijan. He's getting ran a million times. Kenneth Walker was a second-round pick, so was Charbonnet, and I think Charbonnet, in terms of skill set, might be better than Kenneth Walker. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that you should bet your house that Charbonnet is going to start, because I don't think that is even the most likely outcome, but I think it is possible. And again, a premier handcuff at running back on a good offense in Seattle. He played 4 years in college, 2 at Michigan before transferring to UCLA. 10 games played in 2022 at UCLA as a 21-year-old. 195 rushes for 1,359 receiving yards, or rushing yards, sorry. Obviously, rushes for rushing yards. 37 receptions for 321 receiving yards and 11.2% target share. 2 straight seasons of over 1,100 rushing yards at UCLA. 4.53 40-yard dash. Not the fastest guy on earth, but neither is Kenneth Walker. And then 6 feet, 214 pounds. If the Seattle Seahawks offense looks how they looked last year and Geno Smith doesn't fall off the edge of the earth, then man, oh man, if Zach Charbonnet takes that role from Kenneth Walker, you're going to be laughing straight to the bank. And again, we don't root for injuries, but you just have to talk about it when you're this late in the running back rankings. If an injury happens, moonshot for Zach Charbonnet and a fucking, what do they even call that? Dang, a money shot to your opponent if Zach Charbonnet becomes the starter. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It helps me out a ton. Again, today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you check them out. Link in the video description. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.